What's going on, guys? It's the Unhinged Engineer here, and I just gotta say, I have seen tons of buzz, both online and in person, about personal projects lately. And I think it's honestly for good reason, right? The job market is super tough right now, everything's super competitive, and people are always looking for ways to set themselves apart. And done the right way, personal projects and a really strong portfolio can be a huge lever towards getting the job offer that we're looking for. And so it makes sense that there's so much buzz around personal projects. The problem is that most projects don't achieve that. Like, they don't make us stand out and make us seem like exactly what our employer's looking for, kind of like they just stumbled upon gold, right? Instead, they're just kind of slop that takes up place on our resume if they're not intelligently selected, designed, and executed. And so in this episode, I want to talk about how we can be more intelligent about the projects we choose to take on our very limited time, on our own dime too, right? Because most of the time we're not getting paid for these projects. Like, how we can be very smart about picking the projects that we ultimately build a portfolio out of, such that it maximizes the return on investment. I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for people working in software, aerospace and defense, technology. Basically, if you're a young person like me, trying to stand out early on in your career and build super awesome stuff, this is the channel for you. So as far as our resume goes, our projects really stand out in two main ways. The first way is the application. In other words, like the actual project itself. What did we do? What did we accomplish? And then the second way is skills or technology that we used to do that, right? And so I want to talk about like how each of these axes, we're trying to maximize like how much we stand out to an employer, how desirable we seem. And the first one I want to talk about here is like skills and technology, because it's actually the way simpler one, okay? Skills and technology is mainly about conformity. Like, the way that we're trying to stand out here is being as perfect of a fit as possible for the job that we're looking for, right? So I mean this as literally as you can imagine. Go on the job recs that you're looking for, either by title or by company, and look at the skills they're looking for or the technologies they're looking for people to have, right? And build the thing you're trying to build with those skills and those technologies exactly. Not close enough, exactly, right? And I want to provide like two examples here. First one, I do a lot of computer vision at my day job, so let's talk about computer vision, right? If you look at a job title for computer vision engineer, and they say that they're looking for people with Onyx experience, right? And you're like, okay, well, I've heard of Onyx, I know it's like a computer vision runtime, but I've used TF Lite a million times. We just use that instead. Like TF Lite being one for microcontrollers and smaller edge platforms, right? Don't do that. Like, you would probably know if you work in computer vision, like I know, like those two concepts of like running a computer vision model in a certain runtime. The truth is, like, most of the things that you could learn using Onyx, you could also learn using something like TF Lite or like Olama if you're trying to, do LLMs. My point here is, like, even though functionally everybody who's technical knows that you're kind of getting the same skills, even if you're using different tools, the recruiter doesn't know that. And even worse, the ATS being applicant tracking system, effectively the resume parser that kicks half of us out before we even get a chance, right? The ATS and the recruiter, they don't know that. And so basically they just look at like Onyx, anything else, okay, they don't have Onyx, never mind, pass them up, right? So follow the job recs as closely as possible here. Don't try to be creative, don't try to stick to what you know, like use the tools that they want, okay? Because breaking through on the skills and technology front here is all about conforming, is being a perfect fit for what they're looking for. And to use another example, right? Let's say you're interested in systems programming and you're applying to a company that says they mostly use Rust, but you're like a C wizard, right? And you think in your head, oh, like I could do this badass project in C in like a week and do it in an application that is relevant to this company. We'll get to applications in a second. But my point is, it doesn't matter. Okay, in terms of the technology, just use what they want you to use, because all you're trying to break through is the recruiter's like non-technical parsing of your resume, and then the computer's literal like text-to-text pattern matching. Like, that's all that the skills and technology are about. Because in the long run, when you go and actually interview with technical people, they know whether or not you have the skills that they're looking for, regardless of what tools you've worked with at your day job or you've worked on in your projects. But ultimately, getting through those systems I just talked about is about conforming to what they're looking for. Now let's talk about the applications of our projects, which are a little bit different. Okay, now by contrast, standing out in terms of the application of your project is actually about doing something unique, right? And doing something unique either in terms of scope or area, right? So whether it's like taking a core technology and really applying it in a big way, solving a big problem, or applying it to a specific problem that you care about or that you have lots of experience with. In terms of the application, like we want something a little inspired, not to sound corny, but it's true. Like we want something a little inspiring that people look at that and say, wow, like they went out on their own time and built this kind of thing. Or I've never seen something like that before. I couldn't even imagine how to do it. As long as it's believable, it's probably going to be a boon that you could use to lure somebody in. Right? And so in other words, please do not be like the 10,000th person to do one of these projects I'm going to list here. Okay. And they're all going to be AI because I work in AI, but you're going to get the point soon enough. Okay. So sorry if I just dumped on anybody's project specifically. I didn't mean to call you out, but what's the problem with these projects? The problem is that they're like inherent to the skills that you're trying to demonstrate, right? So if you want a job in computer vision, where you're very likely going to be doing object detection, just running a YOLO model for some basic, object detection doesn't demonstrate that you can do anything novel, right? Or running like a traditional CNN that's already trained on hand gesture data, or even if you train it yourself, like you're not doing anything novel or unique that really stands out and jumps off the page here. Similarly, LLMs can translate things already. They can parse resumes. They can do sentiment analysis. Like these are all things that don't use these applications in a way that they're not they don't easily lend themselves to, right? And the reason this is a problem is because if you worked in engineering for a while, you know that just as much as the technologies themselves, if not sometimes even more so, the hard parts of engineering are about integrating these things in a way that serves a specific role, usually within specific constraints, right? And none of these projects demonstrate that. It basically demonstrates that you know what object detection is, or you know what an LLM is, or maybe some basic fine-tuning, I don't know. They're not a part of a larger system that forces you to answer some tough engineering questions that you couldn't just Google up or ask ChatGPT for. Really difficult fundamental questions about how we use these technologies in the real world, they don't force you to figure that out. But that's what interviewers want, right? And that's what they're going to probably ask you about if you actually get in the door of the interview anyway. Some better examples, I think personally, just as an example, something I'm trying to do, I'm trying to use object detection for flight control in the loop. So run it locally, on a Raspberry Pi or an NVIDIA Orin, on a drone platform that I've built myself, and factor the results of the YOLO model, whatever I decide to run, into the controller of that drone. That's something more unique that takes the fundamental technology of object detection and applies it to something that I care about that has a lot of other moving pieces, mainly drones. I have some other examples I wrote down here. Maybe, if you really like cloud computing, use object detection in AWS on CCTV streams of traffic to try to predict, how bad traffic is at any given moment, right? And if you want to use LLMs, maybe you like YouTube a lot like me, try to set up some kind of automated video transcription, right? Or automated video transcription and translation, like hooking into YouTube's API, right? Connecting these core technologies to novel, unique stuff. And this goes for stuff outside of AI too. If you have a PID controller, put it in something cool, right? Don't just write a script that does a PID controller. It doesn't really demonstrate any more fundamental knowledge about what you're trying to work on. And so this concept of okay, do I have a project that's complex and unique enough that it forces me to make some engineering decisions that I could speak to in an interview? This is more important than the actual application of the company you're applying for. If you're applying to a company in national security, you don't need every one of your projects to be about national security or cybersecurity, whatever, right? If you're trying to do stuff in AI, Like, you don't need like an inherently AI project. Maybe you can apply AI to another problem that it's not traditionally used for, or you can even just like do a project that doesn't have anything to do with AI and just demonstrates other skills you might want to show off, like software engineering or systems programming or whatever, right? Computer hardware, I don't know. The fundamentals, you get fundamentals from like work experience and from courses and mentorship and whatnot. The projects are like capstones that we're trying to use to lure in recruiters and ultimately get their attention and get that interview, right? So really use the application of your project as a way to stand out and communicate a little bit about who you are and the kinds of things that you'll bring to the table. Make it complex, make it big in scope, make it ambitious, and even if it doesn't, match all of your expectations, I guarantee you it will pass through the, noise of people just reading those. I probably shouldn't embrace them yet, but those projects that they see over and over and over again. All right, so in conclusion, the two things we care about the most is what application we're trying to tackle and what skills or tech are we using. And starting off with skills and tech again, this is mainly about being a perfect fit. And we are given the answer key in the form of job recs, right? Ideally, the job recs demonstrate what they're looking for. So just make sure that the skills and technology match what they're looking for exactly. And then you will stand out as a good candidate, like, wow, oh my God, this person's a perfect fit. They hit everything on our checklist, or almost everything on our checklist. Obviously, you can't hit everything all the time, but almost everything on our checklist based on the skills and technology that they have on their resume. And fundamentally, like, all a project is what if I could work on anything I wanted and only pick the most valuable skills for the jobs that I'm trying to get. That's what a project is, right? So use that freedom to target exactly what they're looking for. And I should have said this from the very beginning, but I honestly start with the skills and technology piece, right? Like, call me uninspired, call me like just trying to get, money or whatever. But the truth is, as much as I enjoy building stuff in my free time, I'm trying to get paid. And this is the way we get paid, right? By being a perfect fit for the job, that we stand out like, wow, I can't believe that this person just fell into my lap. And usually a person having that reaction will either be a computer or a recruiter, okay? In terms of the application, this is different, right? Try to be a little unique. Try to be a little, inspired, like, wow, I can't believe this person built this thing on their own, and communicate who you are, right? Pick a project you care about. Pick a problem you care about that you're trying to solve, and ultimately just serves as a forcing function that makes you have to use all of these technologies in a way that you couldn't just figure out automatically by reading tutorials online or watching YouTube videos, okay? Like, pick something ambitious enough and unique enough that you have to fill in some of the gaps on your own. Because ultimately, when they look through your website portfolio, or they ask you about these things later on in the interview, that's the stuff they care about. They don't care about whether or not you listed Onyx on your resume. They care about whether or not you used it for something real and had to face some real challenges. And that stuff, if it's a really hard project, you will practically have that tattooed on your forehead. You'll know the idiosyncrasies of all these technologies so well. And the application just serves as kind of like a way to frame that conversation and ultimately motivate us to get the job done and motivate the recruiter or the hiring manager to hire us. Okay, I know there's a lot. Thanks a lot for watching. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for young engineers like me. If this is something you're interested in, if you're trying to build cool stuff and advance your career, then this is the channel for you. In addition to weekly kind of videos like this, I also am vlogging my grad school journey. So I'm trying to get my master's in computer science at night at Georgia Tech while I also work my full-time job. And if that's something you're interested in, also like, comment, subscribe. Just like, comment, subscribe. Anyway, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.